This video series will reveal which superhero you really are. Everyone is a combination of one MCU character and one single-digit Arabic numeral. It's time to find out yours. Answer these 4 questionnaires and read these 3 books and do a lot of introspection, and I'll tell you which Avengers Endgame character is your long-lost twin. The year is 2012. The world is scheduled to end in 7 months, apparently, and I am about to go to an advanced showing of Marvel's The Avengers at midnight, because it is 2012. And somewhere in the second act of the movie, something about the antagonist clicks for me, and I very nearly say out loud, "Oh my god, Loki is a 2!" Now, I know what you're thinking, but have no fear, I am not talking about the relative f***ability of legit snack Tom Hiddleston. No, I am talking about the other thing that I spent my entire college career drunkenly yelling at my friends about. The motherfucking Enneagram. Laura, you might be asking, what in the hell does that mean? The Enneagram is a tool for self-reflection and growth rooted in a combination of modern psychology with a variety of spiritual traditions. It defines 9 basic personality types represented by this star shape along with the numbers 1 through 9. The idea is that each of these personalities exist in all people, but one will always come to the forefront. Wait, before you leave! I totally understand that a lot of people have very justified issues and suspicions vis-a-vis any type of personality disorder, or just aren't super into them, and if that's you, I promise I'm not here to try to convert you. I have found the Enneagram to be super meaningful and helpful in my own life, and actually totally immersing myself in it over the past few months as I've been researching for this project has been really good for my mental health. So if it does sound like the kind of thing you'd be interested in, then I would be honored to be your introduction. But even if it's not, I do hope that you'll stick around, because I have also found the Enneagram to be very helpful for another reason. Story structure and character development, bitches. So, I'm gonna tell you about the Enneagram, but I'm not just gonna sit here and yell a bunch of earthy, crunchy spiritual psychology jargon at you. Oh no. We're gonna do this by analyzing the arcs of 9 characters from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Strap in, y'all, it's gonna be a time. So, why is the Enneagram in particular so useful for storytellers? Why not just do your character's birth chart, or get in a super method headspace and take the Myers-Briggs? Let's talk about some key terms. Each personality type is defined primarily by a basic desire and a basic fear. These are incredibly broad, and for most types are essentially inversions of one another. So for example, type 2's basic desire is to be loved, and their basic fear is of feeling alone and unlovable. If you've ever taken an intro to screenwriting or acting course, or watched a video essay, it's probably obvious why this is so useful for character-focused storytelling. Want, objective, motivation. Since the Enneagram always circles back to this basic desire, it can be a really useful springboard or template for fleshing out a character's behavior in a way that centralizes what drives them, or for specifying their moment-to-moment desires that make up a cohesive arc. On the flip side, if you're a writer who tends toward a more plot-first approach, or if you're an actor crafting the inner life of a character whose actions have been predetermined by the writer, the Enneagram can help to specify a character's personal connection to a utilitarian plot action. A character running for political office or fighting for a throne, for example, might be seeking to be and do good, like a 1, to bask in the adoration of a public, like a 2, to gain external validation of their own worth, like a 3, or to find the sense of security that comes with a role in a political structure, like a 6. Since the Enneagram as a psychological tool is intended to help with self-reflection for the purposes of personal growth, it focuses a lot on what healthy versus unhealthy behaviors look like, how the different types respond to immediate and long-term stress, and what growth and regression look like for them. This is made particularly clear in what's called integration and disintegration. Each type at their healthiest and unhealthiest will begin to exhibit traits of another type. 7s, for example, disintegrate toward 1 under stress and integrate towards 5 as we grow and learn to manage our anxieties. Both integration and disintegration can help to build different kinds of dynamic character arcs. Integration is obviously great for characters who grow over the course of the story, and disintegration can help to specify a particular character's response to a high-stakes conflict, or to build a nuanced villain or anti-hero. But of course, growth and regression aren't one-way streets, and given a project subject with a wider scope, like a TV series or a cinematic universe, the dynamic nature of the 9 personality types can help to shape characters who progress and regress by turns to powerful effect. Each type has a particular flavor of crisis that they will experience given a significant shock to their system called the red flag. This is rooted in an expression of the basic fear. So 2s, who again fear being alone and unloved, fear that their actions are driving their loved ones away. The red flag represents a potential turning point. When we recognize this fear for what it is, addressing the extent to which it is rooted in reality and moving past the extent to which it is rooted in internal fear and anxiety can be the first step toward growth. But when we resist the truth at the heart of this fear, it can trigger unhealthy coping mechanisms and a backslide into disintegration. This is especially great for particularly high-stakes stories, since it can help to clarify a character's moment of crisis in relation to a major stressor, and it outlines some ideas of where they might go from there. In addition to the vocabulary specifically helpful for story structure, there are a few more key terms that help to distinguish the multitudes contained within each personality type. Along with the main personality type, each person has a wing, a secondary type that blends with the main type to create a subtype. Wings are one of the 2 adjacent numbers, so a 7, for example, could have a 6 wing or an 8 wing. This can be thought of as somewhat of a spectrum. Most people of a given type have at least a little bit of each wing to them, but one tends to be more prominent. For the purposes of this series, I'll pretty much be talking about the 2 wings as distinct subtypes. The other subtype within each main personality type is based on one of 3 instinctual variants: self-preservation, sexual, and social. Those are some loaded words, but they mean something very specific in this context, so take a minute to just clear out whatever just came into your head. If a person's type tells us what motivates them, their instinctual variant subtype tells us where they seek it out. Self-preservation types look internally to themselves and to their physical environment. If you're coming from a Myers-Briggs background or, the internet, it's easy to equate that with introversion, but that's not always the case. Self-pres types are often excellent hosts who keep warm, welcoming homes with lots of comfy places to sit, perfect mood lighting, a meticulously programmed thermostat, and a fully stocked tea or liquor cabinet that they would love to share with you. Sexual types look to intimate one-on-one relationships with other people, not limited to lovers, or sometimes with projects or with God, if that's their thing. We are not necessarily the type most likely to leave our self-pres friends' parties arm in arm with a relative stranger, but you will likely find us planted on the couch or tucked off in a corner somewhere having a long, deep conversation with lots of intense eye contact. Social types look to their role in a group. So no, they're not necessarily the biggest party animals, but they are the type most likely to decide whether or not any given time is party time based on how the group is feeling as opposed to their own energy level, and they will likely be the first to happily make a liquor store run if the party needs it. All 3 of these instincts obviously do show up in everybody and can be thought of as stacking, with one that rises to the forefront, one that takes a secondary role, and one that tends to fall behind. That primary instinct is what is generally understood as defining a subtype, and that's how I'll be talking about it in this series. And finally, just a quick note on the word average, which you'll hear a lot. In Enneagram speak, this refers specifically to a person's relative level of mental and spiritual health. So an average 2 would be a 2 who's in the average range of health and self-actualization, as opposed to an unhealthy 2 or a healthy 2. Okay, so now that we've got the basic vocabulary, I want to take a step back and give a few disclaimers. The point of this series is absolutely not to assert that the MCU was created with the Enneagram in mind. I seriously doubt that it was. But since it has a variety of characters who have at this point been put through a lot, and since making those characters feel like people we know and want to spend time with has been such a crucial part of Marvel's business model, I think there's a depth there that rewards analysis, and the 2 things illuminate one another nicely. The MCU can be read as a fun intro course to the Enneagram, and the Enneagram can be a fun lens with which to analyze the characters of the MCU. But this does mean that we're working with a very particular scope. As far as Marvel goes, I'm really just looking very specifically at character analysis. This isn't going to involve a lot of film criticism per se, although I'm sure that I do have some opinions too strong not to seep their way in. And as far as the Enneagram goes, this is a very basic introduction looking at 9 very specific characters. Those of you doing the math at home will have noticed that between wings and instinctual variants, there are a total of 54 subtypes, and we do not have time to get into all of them, even if they were by some miracle all represented in the MCU. I'm also breaking somewhat of a cardinal rule of the Enneagram, which is that it's for typing yourself, not other people. While there are recognizable patterns of behavior associated with each type, what really distinguishes them is motivation, which is a super internal thing, and it can be really invalidating to have someone tell you that you don't know yourself as well as they know you. Part of what I like so much about the Enneagram is that unlike something like Myers-Briggs or the Big Five, there is no definitive test you can take to externally determine your type. There are questionnaires that can give you an idea of where to start, but the good ones acknowledge that they are just one step in an introspective process that no person or test can do for you or tell you that you've done wrong. Fortunately for me, the Avengers are in fact fictional, so I cannot hurt them by making informed guesses about their inner lives. But, seeing as I did not write, direct, or act in any of these movies, I am far from an authority on the single best way to interpret what's going on under the surface with any of these characters. If you're a fellow Ennea geek with thoughts on the subject, I would love to hear from you in the comments. As an absolute f***ing 7, very actively carving out my social role as the Energizer, I would love nothing more than to get some healthy, respectful, enlightening debate going. And to that end, I'm gonna be making at least one controversial typing, so get pumped for that. But if you're someone who's not familiar with the Enneagram and might be interested in using it for your own life, I would encourage you to just keep in mind that the Enneagram is much more expansive than simply identifying patterns of behavior and personality traits. I do think a lot of why any personality typing resonates with people is the power in feeling seen, and I don't want to minimize that. But the heart of Enneagram work is not simply seeing ourselves, but learning how to catch ourselves in our habits, recognize our barriers to growth, and become the best versions of ourselves. If that sounds like it might be your jam, please do not stop with my silly little internet video series. I'll put some good resources in the description. Alright, with my disclaimers out of the way, class, here's your syllabus. Our textbook for this course is The Wisdom of the Enneagram by Don Richard Rizzo and Russ Hudson. It's a really solid overview of the basic vocabulary of the Enneagram and a good introduction to the 9 types. I am also only going to be focusing on these characters as they are portrayed in the movies of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I know, I have to draw the line somewhere. But I would love to hear from people who know more about the comics in the comments. I'm sure that lends a ton more interesting insight. And now, without further ado, the 9 personality types.
Type 1, the reformer, the rational, idealistic type, principled, purposeful, self-controlled, and perfectionistic.
Type 2, the helper, the caring, interpersonal type, generous, demonstrative, people-pleasing, and possessive.
Type 3, the achiever, the success-oriented, pragmatic type, adaptable, excelling, driven, and image-conscious.
Type 4, the individualist, the sensitive, withdrawn type, expressive, dramatic, self-absorbed, and temperamental.
Type 5, the investigator, the intense, cerebral type, perceptive, innovative, secretive, and isolated.
Type 6, the loyalist, the committed, security-oriented type, engaging, responsible, anxious, and suspicious.
Type 7, the enthusiast, the busy, fun-loving type, spontaneous, versatile, acquisitive, and scattered.
Type 8, the challenger, the powerful, dominating type, self-confident, decisive, willful, and confrontational.
Type 9, the peacemaker, the easygoing, self-effacing type, receptive, reassuring, agreeable, and complacent.
Pop your popcorn, fluff your pillows, and stay tuned. Coming up first, we're gonna get angry. And you won't like me when I'm angry.